Here's the problem I have. Canelo, baby, you'll want baby. I know that. He may face Jermall Charlo or Jaime Munguia. Now, I know some of you guys are saying these are amazing fights, and I need to set the record straight right here and now before this becomes a thing, so my words are forever engraved in your brain. And when one of these two outcomes happens, which very well could happen, my thoughts are already out. So here's the problem, and I want to break it down again. I got to get ahead of the bullet. There's going to be a lot of people, if Canelo decides to fight Jermall Charlo, and they're going to try, and this is how you know I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. I know their moves before they make their moves. So this is what's going to happen. If Canelo decides to fight Jermall Charlo, the Canelo fans are going to bring up commentary that I've given years ago, like over 3 years ago. And that goes to show you how long I've been relevant and the longevity that I have in the boxing game. And what they'll use is commentary from 3+ years ago, 4 years ago, when I initially said it, and then try to introduce that conversation and those talking points into 2024. Let me tell you the flaw with that. That doesn't make any sense, and that doesn't work, right? So you can't wait until certain things occur and then go back in time upwards of 4 years ago and then try to bring conversations from 2016, 2017, 2024 into the equation as if new information hasn't been revealed and we do not know more about certain situations. The only way that would make sense is if absolutely nothing had changed from 2016, 2017, when these comments were made in 2019, right? And zero had changed from those periods of time all the way to now. Now, in regards to Canelo versus Jermall Charlo, we know that for a fact not to be the case. For example, many things have changed. Canelo Alvarez, when I made videos saying I wanted to see Canelo versus Jermall Charlo, Canelo Alvarez was still with Golden Boy Promotions, right? So that's a big change because, as we know, for several years now, Canelo has not been with Golden Boy Promotions. So that's just to give you guys an example, one major change that has happened over the last several years in each fighter's career. And when you go down Canelo's career, you go down Jermall Charlo's career, it becomes very apparent. Canelo left Golden Boy. He did a deal with Eddie Hearn. And then finally, he made his way to Al Haymon, and he's in a multi-fight deal with Al Haymon. These are significant changes. Now, I understand some people are going to say, oh, now the Jermall Charlo fight becomes more realistic because he's with Al Haymon. But allegedly, Canelo could have made his own decisions, and he was supposed to be the face of boxing. So he literally could have fought Jermall Charlo. He did it for Caleb Plant, right? He did a one-off deal with Showtime Boxing at the time, even though Showtime is no longer. And that's another thing. I just thought of that. That's another point. Showtime Boxing was definitely in boxing at the time when I made these statements. But again, you're going to get the Canelo Chupapi Muñeños, and they're going to try to use these statements from 4 years ago and use that as their talking point and catalyst. The reason why in recent videos, operative word being recent, that I'm not big on Canelo versus Jermall Charlo is what has went on and transpired with Jermall Charlo's career specifically. And even more specific than that is his inactivity. The man Jermall Charlo fought against Fernando Montiel. Many of Canelo's fans didn't even like that performance from Jermall Charlo. They say, oh, Jermall looked bad. I mean, I don't personally think he looked so horrible. like people are saying, but I'm just going off of the Canelo Chupapi Muñeños and what they said. They said, oh, Canelo would easily destroy him. He couldn't even stop Montiel. Jermall Charlo looked horrific. For me, I don't think Jermall Charlo looked bad in the fight per se. I think he was fighting at home. Well, I know he was fighting at home in Houston, and I believe the hometown hijinks got him, where he was so eager to get the stoppage, he underestimated his opponent's ability and durability. Keep in mind, the same guy had been stopped. Montiel had already been previously stopped by a guy like Jaime Munguia, I believe in Mexico. So that's the mistake that Jermall Charlo, in my opinion, made in that particular fight. He made the mistake of trying to play into the crowd cheering and do it for the crowd and have this highlight reel sensational knockout, and he kind of got away from what he normally does, because normally at his best, Jermall Charlo is a boxer puncher, right? And he has some defense, he has a jab, and that's that. But he kind of rushed his work and he blew his wad, pause, early in the fight, trying to push for the stoppage, right? And that's what made the fight play out like it did. That's why he survived. Had Jermall Charlo stuck to one of his more traditional strategies and game plans, I very well think he could have stopped Fernando Montiel, because we later seen him get viciously stopped by Carlos Adames, right? So I think Jermall Charlo, he showed he can hurt Montiel, but he could have got the stoppage. He would have had to put it together a little bit different. And sometimes when you're fighting a big name fighter like Jermall Charlo, some guys have their best nights where they're just like determined, and no matter what, they're bound to not get stopped because, you know, they're just willing to show their true grit, dig down deep. They're not going to win the fight, but they're going to hold on and make it an ugly night for you and or not get stopped. I mean, we've seen this with David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. Anybody else, like 85% of the other competition, if they were taking the shots that Caleb Plant was taking, they probably would have surrendered and or the fight would have been stopped, you know, late in those late rounds. Caleb Plant was just a man on fire, and he started off well, kind of fell apart, got tired late, and he just refused to go away. And sometimes you get fights like that. You've seen it with Canelo and John Ryder, where it was just a guy who was like very durable and just wouldn't go away. You know, it happens. But the funny thing is the Canelo fans, the Chupapi Muñeños, they criticize heavily Jermall Charlo performances like Korobov and Brandon Adams and Montiel. But then now Canelo finally may pick Jermall Charlo. Now they love Jermall Charlo as an option. This is what old media does. When Canelo wasn't looking in the direction of Jermall Charlo, and he was an active fighter and he was looking very dangerous for Canelo, and they were in the same weight classes at 54 and 60, the Canelo fans had a million excuses as to why Canelo shouldn't give an opportunity to Jermall Charlo. Oh, he could barely beat Montiel. Oh, his resume sucks. Now, these same fans try to use commentary that I've given 4 years ago, and now that it looks like Canelo could pick Jermall Charlo this year, now they all of a sudden want to see the fight. So it goes to show you they don't want to see Canelo fight these guys at their best. They're okay with Canelo fighting Jermall Charlo when his hair's all grown out. It don't look like he's getting a haircut. He hasn't been fighting actively in 3 years. He just fought a smaller guy at a catch weight, missed weight, and then some people are like, oh, he should have stopped the smaller Jose Benavidez, but he couldn't stop him. They're okay with that, but these same people weren't okay with Jermall Charlo and Canelo happening when it made more sense. So again, I got to get in front of the bullet and expose these things, because if Canelo does pick Jermall Charlo, you can refer back to this video and you will know why. Canelo frequently fights fighters that have some type of like ailment, handicap, or disadvantage that's widely and publicly known. Maybe they're coming off a bad performance. Maybe they've been on a long layoff. Maybe their last performance, they showed vulnerability. These types of things. That's when Canelo will fight you. That's why it took several years between Canelo Triple G2 and Canelo Triple G3 to happen. And then you have Canelo fans who have the audacity to get up on the comment section and be like, oh, you said you wanted Canelo versus Jermall Charlo. Yeah, but I said it 4 years ago. Things change, especially when the trajectory of a fighter's career change. Like, for example, some people wanted to see Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua 4 years ago. But based on where they're both at now, and Wilder losing to Joseph Parker in the fashion that he did, a guy that Joshua already beat, maybe fans don't want to see that 4 years later, right? Fans wanted to see Amir Khan, versus Kell Brook. So basically, realistically, I got my chocolate rotten brownie. I'm ready. I'm gonna fight me fight, right? They wanted to see Amir Khan and Kell Brook, but they wanted to see it when it actually made sense, when it was both guys were relevant, and it was one of the biggest fights in Great Britain at that time, in the UK. That's when people wanted to see the fight. But what happens is we got the fight way, way later, after Crawford had already knocked out Khan, Danny Garcia, Kell Brook had already been slaughtered, both of his eyes by Triple G. Had no guys, had Max, and Errol Spence. So what are you talking about? And that's what goes to show you that the Canelo, a lot of his fans are radical. They're not a fan of the sport. They're a fan of, they want Canelo, they like to fight Canelo and Jermall Charlo when he's looking vulnerable. Or even picking a Jaime Munguia. I guarantee you, if Jaime Munguia looks spectacular and shows no flaws under Freddie Roach, then Canelo's not going to pick him. But if Munguia looks vulnerable, like he did versus Derenchenko, then yeah, he could still be in the running. And that's how Canelo's been operating. You see it. He wants to get paid. He feels he's on top of the hill. He's already done everything. That's why he's golfing and stuff like that. And that's why the fight that everybody wants to see, Canelo and David Benavidez, which is definitely surpassed in modern times, a fight with like a Jermall Charlo, right? But he's not looking in Benavidez's direction. New players like David Morrell Jr. are emerging, but now he's just now getting to the people when it's convenient. And when guys like he's outgrown the division, now he wants to fight Jermall Charlo. But you could have fought Jermall Charlo when you were both at 154, and it would have been a more fair fight instead of making a man jump 14 pounds. That's the ego thoughts.